Norwich 93 CMP. We're going to do a video on the 1911 series and the slide and how to take it apart. It's actually pretty simple, but just in case there's somebody who doesn't know how to do it, so this way here you can watch the movie, follow along, and you shouldn't have any issues. If you've done the field stripping already, you have your strip slide assembly. And what I mean by strip side assembly is because it still has the firing pin, the locking plate, and the extractor still in it. And I'm going to show you guys how to remove that. One of the first things I want to tell you is that there is some spring tension on that firing pin. It's not strong, but unlike the military rifles, which usually has a free-floating firing pin, there is a spring on the opposite side of this, so you have to be careful. You know, whether you wear glasses, you should wear some eye protection, obviously, if you do things like this. I got a long Q-tip. It's got a wooden end to it. I'm going to push in on the rear of the firing pin, and then I'm just going to cock up that slide, that locking plate, and you'll notice that I now have a gap right here, and this part is protruding a little bit. That's where I make sure I have my finger over the hole, and I gently either use my stick still, if I can, and then I pinch the bottom of it and I pull out, and you'll hear a little click because there's no tension on the plate right now. Put it to the side. It's a light, it's not a very strong spring, so it only, you know, what is that, a centimeter or something like that, half inch or something. But just be careful. Now see that the spring didn't come out with it, so that means this is pretty dirty. We'll go over like some of the maintenance of this. Usually I see the springs, so see how it's not on there? Sometimes if you flip it around, nope. Usually they're a little tighter on this end, on one end, and it'll stay together like that. This one hasn't to come out. Just be careful that once, if you take your firing pin out and you don't have the spring, it's probably still down inside. Either get a magnet or some kind of dowel and just bring it out. All right, so we got the locking plate, the firing pin, and the spring out. The last thing I have to get is the ejector. Now the ejector goes all the way to over here, okay? Don't touch the inside of there. Personally, let's see if I can get a good zoom on that. There's a little shelf to it, and it shouldn't be in that hard. I'm gonna try to pull out with this wooden dowel, and I'm not getting any resistance, so I have to go to something harder. I do have a smaller flat screwdriver, and I'm just gently gonna put it in there and pry outward. Nope, she didn't want to go. Doing it from the inside now. See, should all crudded up. Let's see. I never had this gun apart, so all right. So see where I'm bracing against the flat area here. Just get a little crook under that. You can't use the bottom because there's a cut in it, and it's part of the same piece, and you're not going to win. But this is actually under a lot of tension. There's a lot of crud on here. I can feel it on the way out. Ugh. Okay, so that was super tight. Now you can see through the firing pin holes on the left and the extractor holes on the right. And I can tell right now by looking through the camera. I look through the camera when I do these things. There's a lot of crud in there. Looking at my extractor, look at that. That's cruddy. This right here basically aligns it and gives it that, there's a slight bend to it, and that's what gives it that spring tension, gives it the room to move around within the slide. That's how that works. That's where the locking plate goes through and keeps it from falling out. So there is no spring portion to the ejector. When I clean these up, obviously I'm looking at the lips over in here. This was worse than I thought. Let's see, I got a little zippy stupid rag here. Patch, but I mean, this is nasty. Nasty for my taste anyway. Some of you are all dirty birds. You don't care too much, I don't think. But the most important part is in here. Look at that. That buildup. That's nasty. Clean that out really nice. That's what's gonna catch on the lip. I got a dummy around here someplace. There it is. But that's what's gonna engage. And if it's short and it's not deep and it's out this way, you may not get a good extraction at all. Okay, the face should be nice and clean so that it can fall down on top of the, if you're closing on a round or doing any immediate action, just be careful. This whole thing should be clean. The locking plate, all the little straight lines on it should be clean. The holes should be clean. You shouldn't feel any, when it's under spring pressure from the firing pin, when you're pushing on the back of it, you shouldn't feel any graininess to it. This had some, I could see some little bit of oil in there, but I don't think they ever cleaned the firing pin hole, just so I can tell. This is why I get these long, I think I bought like a huge box of these things off of Amazon. It was like 30 bucks, but I got like 1,000 of them. It was worth it, trust me. Look how dirty that is. But that's where you're going to get your constrictions from, and when it's dirty, it's going to hold moisture, and you're going to get this. If you look, let me see if I can get it real nice and close. If you look, there's all surface rust on this firing pin right in this area right here, where it's the tightest in the hole. Not so much over here, there's a little bit of air circulation, but right at that tight portion right here, there's a small gap where air and moisture gets into. This part was probably almost touching. And then my spring was getting a little cruddy too. I noticed that, and I'll show you how to clean the spring in a minute. Let's go back to the extractor. Make sure all these lines in here are clean, all around here, all these flats. This portion, actually see a little bit of just starting of forming of rust on that, see it? We'll clean her up all nice, but make sure that this is clean. The extractor claw. Otherwise, she's not going to work that good. I use cotton tipped Q-tips. Why? Because I can break this part and use this part to clean too, which is a little coarser. Look, see, I got dirt off of that too. And I already went through with the swab. Look, see that right there? So there is a stuff there. I do recommend using denatured alcohol. I like it. I think it cuts carbon pretty damn well. You can use that other commercial stuff, but the denatured alcohol, you folks would be surprised. It's cheap. Doesn't screw up anything really. Takes off the gumming a lot easier. You know, that old oil, that junky commercial oils. I personally use GI stuff because it doesn't get goopy after time if it's stuff's been sitting for a long period of time. The firing pin obviously has got to be clean. Check it for straightness. You know, you got to put it on like a level surface and spin it. It's not bent or anything. It wasn't binding up when it was in there when I took it out. That's good to go. Now, an important piece that I do for my firing pins and any kinds of springs that we have is, this is a very fine spring. So I use a single side of my paper towel, and if I had my second hand, but lay it in there, right? So it's kind of hooked, and then I spin it. And as you spin it, you'll see all the crud that's coming out of it. That's in your spring. You don't see that. Once it's out, I mean, even when I was looking at it, I was like, this is pretty good, but I can tell by the color that there was some gunk on it. And just run all your springs this way. If you have the larger spring, this is the operating spring. Obviously, it's a lot wider. All you do is just fold it a bunch of times, you know, and then put it on and do the same exact process, okay? And spin it through. Slide it once in a while, get a cleaner area. See, there's schmeg on that too, but it looks clean when you're looking at it, but it's technically not, okay? We talked about the ejector, the claw. There should be a gentle curve inward, okay? So this is like if we're looking down the pistol this way, tilting it up, gentle curve to the left. No curving here, nice and straight. We clean the spring, clean the locking plate, clean both sets of holes. I personally like my nylon brush. When I do this, I'll do it kind of inverted so that if I'm making anything, the gravity makes it fall towards the ground. Just the way I do things. Be very careful of these rails right here. Make sure you're getting them nice and clean. That's where that Q-tip I told you, the cotton port, look at that. That's just nasty. Make sure that's all clean. Down in this part here, I'm trying to get a good, let's see here. There we go. Down in these portions need to be nice and clean also, because there's some stuff on the lower frame that rides in there, and it'll be a nice crisper movement. The locking lugs here, super important. You know what, hold on a second, I got an idea. Why don't I put my miner's lamp on? There we go. Yeah, that's what we'll do. There we go. So these rails here, and then these rails here, super important. The locking lugs, these locking lugs here, super important. You're gonna do them on the barrel also. The breech face of it, you're gonna make sure, I'm trying to do my glasses and the camera work and everything all at the same time. This is the locking area for the bushing. You gotta make sure that's clean. Look at that, nasty. Make sure there's no carbon on the weapon whatsoever, and it'll be nice and smooth. So we just talked about, just a quick review, Norwich 93 CMP. This is basically a 1911 slide that we just went through, and we stripped it down and talked about cleaning of it, and make sure the face is also clean. And we're going to do some more videos. We're going to do the grips, and then we're going to do another one on the little small internals and how to take them apart. And then we'll do other ones for the reassembly. Thanks for watching.